Welcome to month 1 of the Hyperion block of the month. Today we are going to be creating the center star and star points for the quilt. So go ahead, grab your pattern, and let's go over a few things before we get started. So let's take a look at our pattern. We are going to open it up, we're going to pull out the individual month's instructions, and on the back inside cover are cutting diagrams. I want you to refer to these as you cut your fabrics each month to ensure that you have enough room to cut all of your pieces. Now behind my pattern I have the fabrics I'm going to be using. These are assorted batiks from Riley Blake's Expressions Batiks. Aren't they gorgeous? I just love all of that rich, beautiful color. So I'm going to cut my month 1 fabrics and I'll meet you back here. Okay, here are my cut pieces. Now we're going to grab 4 D squares and 1 A square. We are going to make flying geese out of this. So what we're going to do is we are going to draw a line on the wrong side of 4 D squares. And we're going to lay 2 of them on opposite corners of the A square. Now when I do this, because my corners are a little oversized, I move them. See how it's not quite on the corner? I've got just a little bit of room there. It's like a fraction, like it's not even a 1/16 of an inch. But you can see how they're just lying outside of there. And then we're going to take our sewing machine, we're going to sew a scant quarter down the right side and then come back on this other side. We pressed it to set those seams. Now we are going to use our rotary cutter and we're going to cut right down the middle on that drawn line. We're going to take those to the iron and iron those open. Now with the remaining 2 D squares, we're going to place them on the corner of our units that we just ironed. Again, I'm leaving just a fraction off the edge. I've found that that gives me room to trim and more accurate. So we're going to sew both of these on both sides of the line a quarter of an inch. I've sewn and then set my seams by pressing them. So now again, we're going to cut on the drawn line of both of these units. Now we're going to go back to the iron and we're going to press these out. Now we've got our 4 flying geese units that are pressed. I just like to use a regular rotary cutter and ruler to trim these. I just line up my 1/4 inch mark directly on that point and then I will trim them down to the specified size. And I'm going to repeat that on all 4 of them. Alright, now that we've got our 4 flying geese, we're just going to lay them out here. Let's see. We are going to grab a B square as well. It goes in the middle, and then we're going to grab 4 C squares. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew this into rows. So here are our rows. Now we're going to go back to the sewing machine. We're going to stitch this. So here's our star, our very center star. Next, we are going to repeat the flying geese method with 1 F square as our bottom, and then our E squares, our 4 E squares we'll draw the line on them and then place them on the corners. And I'll be back with 4 geese. Okay, so I've got my second set of geese done, the bigger ones this time, and we've got our initial star that we made. We're also going to grab 4 H squares, so those H squares are going to go in the corners. And then we will add our geese in. We're going to sew these into rows here, here, and here. And then, okay, so here are our completed rows. And now we're ready to go sew those rows together. Okay, now that we've sewn our rows together, here's what our finished block 1 is going to look like. We're going to set that aside. We're just going to label it block 1, and we'll use it when we go to assemble the center, the quilt center. So now we're going to grab 2 J triangles and 1 I square. We are going to sew these together. We want to line up this corner with the bottom edge of here, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch here. We'll flip that out, and then we will again line up those corners, sew a 1/4 inch, flip it out. And then we will end up with this unit. To this unit, we are going to add 2 G triangles. Now, when we line these up to go sew it, it's natural to want to line up these 2 corners exactly. But I found that if these units want to be, I found that if I do that, my unit, the length gets a little bit longer, and then the width, the height, I guess it is, the height tends to be a little shorter than I want. So when I line this up, I get, again, like the flying geese, it's just a fraction. It's really not much. I'm going to line up the diagonal edge exactly, and then this top edge, I'm going to leave just a little bit of that background fabric showing. And I did that on the other side as well. So then once you press, you'll get this unit, which should be a little truer to both length, I guess, width and height. And then once I go to trim that, I'm going to line up my 1/4 inch on both of these points here, and then I will trim any excess that I have off. So there's that unit, and to that unit we are going to add 1 K rectangle. Sew that across the top. And then this will be our finished block 2. We're going to make 4 of those. Those are eventually going to end up as star points on that center unit.
Here's what my completed month 1 looks like. 1 block 1 in the middle, and then here are my 4 block 2s. Next month we will be working on the large flying geese that appear both in the center of the quilt and the second outside border. So be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you then.